Aloha, everyone. Thank you for the gift of your time in joining us today. In just a few moments, Governor Josh Green will sign a bill relating to good government reforms. Facilitated questions and answers with media will follow promptly after remarks conclude, and the formal bill signing will commence shortly thereafter. It is my honor now to introduce to you Governor Josh Green.
Aloha. Good to see you guys. Aloha. Thank you for coming. We're going to dive pretty much right in. First off, let me take a special moment to thank the chairs. Thank you too, brother. Thank you, guys. This has been a somewhat tumultuous period of time, the last couple of years, where people have asked us to step up, asked the legislature to get good legislation in front of me. We've consulted with the Attorney General and leaders from our community, so thank you for that. It's important that we restore public confidence. This bill should go a long way to doing that, so thank you for just being good people. So, Jarrett, awesome work. Dave, thank you guys. Thank you, brother. So let me dive into what's at stake here in this bill. So this bill is meant to enhance government accountability. This is Senate Bill 2494. Let's pop over to the first slide. It's a pretty straightforward piece of legislation. The goal is to combat corruption. There should be no ambiguity. People should be upstanding when they're in public office. They should be above reproach. And as we know, these are complicated concerns. If someone is involved in a case, it can take a lot of time. We know that. We accept that. The Attorney General has shared with me many times that it takes a lot of work to go through these cases. And the clock starts ticking because our federal partners have to do a lot of work, and then sometimes the state has to do a lot of work. So what this bill is, it establishes a 9-year statute of limitations on bribery offenses. It gives us additional time so that people can investigate and prosecute complex bribery cases, and hopefully it will just send a message for people to not go near there, to be very careful, to just do their jobs, and to not let anyone think for a second that that's going to be part of government. So I hope that this can do what we hope, which is strengthening accountability for everyone who's elected, whether it is state or county, any level of government. It should promote a lot of public confidence. A 9-year period gives, I think, prosecutors, attorneys general, whatever time they would need to deal with any of these questions. Good to see you too, Kristen. Same can be said at campaign spending, just more time to do this. And hopefully it will never be an issue, going forward. Hopefully we'll just have more clarity for people. So this is an important bill. That's what we have in front of us today. I will say this is not the only bill at all that the legislature gave us. There are other pieces of legislation that do very good things. For example, we're trying to move money from the inside away from government, which is to say a couple years ago, maybe it was 2 years ago, we established very strong prohibitions against fundraising or having fundraisers during the legislative session. And that really holds. I mean, that was a big piece of legislation. There's another piece of legislation that I'll be signing that prohibits people who work in the executive branch from making any donations to anybody. And I think that's another good thing. People should just be able to do their jobs if they are serving. And this will go a long way, I'm certain. But what I will do is, I think we have one more slide, probably just says thank you guys for working hard, yes. And that it's symbolic, it's the Capitol. We thank you from the Capitol for people pushing us to make a better system. I will then pause here. I've seen quite a lot of Senator Kehokulole these last couple days. You've been great. You've been at the forefront of a lot of huge legislation with your compatriot in the House chairing these committees. The Judiciary Committees have been very active, and we've set up standards, including a landmark bill that is working to address dark money. That's good. We know it's a challenge. We know a lot of people are going to be questioning, have we gone too far, or is it time for the rest of the country to catch up? But it takes some courage to go out and actually come up with new ideas. And that's been interesting for me to watch, and we've done quite a lot of major legislation these last couple of years. So I'm grateful to have you guys here again today. Thank you. Okay, aloha.
Mahalo, Governor. Next, I would like to introduce Senator Jarrett Keohokalole, Chair of the Senate Committee on Commerce and Consumer Protection.
Aloha, everyone. This bill is pretty simple. When a crime is committed, we should have justice. And when you have corruption, there should be accountability. So, I wrote this bill because there was a cloud hanging over Hawaii government at the beginning of the legislative session, and this was a straightforward way to ensure that if there was wrongdoing committed, that the perpetrators could not just run out the clock and avoid accountability and justice. As Governor mentioned, I think there was a lot of, Chair Tarnas will come up and talk about the specifics, and he put a tremendous amount of work into actually getting this bill passed. You introduce legislation and things come up and you try and work on issues that arise along the way. There was very little pushback from my standpoint when it came to this piece of legislation, not only because it was straightforward, but because I think this building is full of a lot of good people who work their butts off to try and do the right thing. And no one wants to be associated with corrupt activities that tarnish the good and hard work that so many of us do here for the public. And so this is an attempt to bring accountability and transparency to what happens on behalf of the people with the people's money. And I think our other attempts like Act 11 to remove dark money from the process and create a fairer system that can provide confidence to the public that we are doing the best we can to try and make life better is really important and critical. And I'm very grateful to the Attorney General's office for their hard work on trying to clear the cloud that creates so many questions of our government. And to Chair Tarnas and the members of the House and the Senate, my colleagues, for helping push this legislation forward. I think it speaks for itself. The community can understand what we're trying to do here. And that type of straightforward approach, I hope, will breed confidence over time in the system that everyone participates in. So thank you so much.
Mahalo, Senator Keohokalole. Now please welcome Representative David Tarnas, Chair of the House Committee on Judiciary and Hawaiian Affairs.
Aloha, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. This bill is meant to strengthen our ability to investigate and prosecute bribery while reinforcing the state's commitment to good governance and accountability. It streamlines cooperation with federal investigations, helps ensure cases are thoroughly investigated before charges are filed. These are complicated matters, and we want to make sure that people are held accountable. We are grateful for the unified support behind this legislation. Thanks to Senator Keohokalole for authoring it, and thanks to the Senate and the House for moving it out. This measure was passed unanimously in both the House and Senate, received strong testimony from advocates. This is important for building public confidence in government. We've had a tough time these last 4 years. Two legislators were indicted for bribery. That's shameful. As a legislator, it pains me personally because people who work in this legislature are honorable people. And to have a couple of bad apples spoil the public trust is really unconscionable. And so this bill is to send a message that we have no tolerance for corruption. Bribery is something that you should not even attempt if you're trying to influence legislators. You're going to get caught, and you're going to be prosecuted. People like that do not belong in the legislature. We have no tolerance for corruption. So this bill sends that message to everybody. And part of this is to address folks who are already here, but what's really important for me I'm doing succession planning here. I'm looking to the future. I'm looking to young people who want to run for the legislature. I want to make sure that a job as a legislator is an honorable job, that it is something that people will respect, because we have to attract the best talent to run for office. And it's not an easy job, and we don't want any cloud of public distrust to push people away so that they don't run for office. We need the best and the brightest to run for office. So this bill will help, I hope, build public trust in government again, and also build confidence in future potential legislators to run for office, because this state needs good people in the big building here in the House and Senate. And so hopefully we'll make sure that we get honest, hardworking, diligent people to serve in office here. Thank you very much for being here, for signing in this bill today.
Mahalo, Representative Tarnas. We will now take questions from the media, starting with relating to the bill today, starting with Jill Kuramoto from KHON.
Thank you very much. I guess maybe two questions. Number one, why 9 years? And then also, is this more about punishing corruption or deterring it in the first place?
I'll let the authors describe the 9 year. It was described to me pretty clearly about the 3 and 6 year periods of time, but I think Jarrett probably is best for that.
That's really what it was. It was just extending the interval. You know, this really was a response to the cloud of suspicion that was hanging over the legislature at the beginning of the year. And, you know, this notion that because there was a federal investigation underway, that, you know, just the federal government's refusal to move on that investigation might extinguish the opportunity for accountability at the state level just didn't make any sense. And so, you know, I'm glad that all 76 legislators in the state legislature agreed that, you know, we can push out the statute of limitations. And then again, going into the future, make sure that if there is any corruption that takes place, that there's still accountability, you know, into the future. And I do think this is a special situation where, you know, we are stewards of the public's money and trust. And so that should be accounted for. And people should not be able to skirt the law and run out the clock.
Just to explain the mechanics a little bit so you understand. So this bill extends the statute of limitations for the crime of bribery. Under current law, prosecutions for most felonies must commence within 3 years of the offense. The time tolls for public corruption offenses while the official remains in office and for 2 years thereafter. But the maximum extension is an additional 3 years, so that's the 6 years. So that's why this bill extends it 3 more years to 9 years. So that's how that works.
Mahalo, gentlemen. Gov, did you have something to add? Or
No,
shall we move to the next
that
question?
was the exact description.
Okay.
Because that 6 year was the max extended time as of now, and therefore they've clarified it to 9.
Thank you, sir. Next, we have a question from Andrew Gomes, Star Advertiser.
Thanks. I guess I'm just asking for more elaboration on that same question. And I see the Attorney General here. I'm not sure if she can help, but is there a, I guess, does this extension apply to or useful to or critical to the ongoing investigation related to bribery? And if so, how does that timing matter? Like, you know, was the clock about to run out or did it run out?
Gotcha. I think I get the idea.
Much extra time? Yeah.
Answers, please take it. You know, for my part, I think that the Attorney General has explained on multiple occasions that she needed adequate time to do this investigation, although I think that they've done a ton of work in these last 5 or 6 months and will be able to handle this current case with the time that they're allowed. I don't think that this bill would have been necessary. I'll make sure I get a nod from the Attorney General from Ann. I don't think this bill was necessary to complete this particular work, but going forward, because the federal side of matters, who we respect totally, they have to also have time to do their investigations. And I think we wanted to make sure that both parties, the federal government, the federal judiciary, or the state's attorney general, should not worry about having too little time when there are complex investigations. Is that a fair way to describe it? Thank you. She loves being in front of cameras during active investigations, as you know. So I just wanted to help there. You know, really, the nice thing about this bill, and if you go and read this bill, it is really straightforward. It is just a couple pages long, and it simply makes clear that there is a 9-year statute of limitations on questions of bribery. And it was supported by everyone because it should be helpful to restore public trust.
Technology. Thank you, Governor. We have a follow-up question from Jill Kuramoto.
I guess it's simple. Why are bribery cases more difficult to prosecute or investigate?
So my understanding is there just is a lot of nuance to these kind of cases where people are trying to influence government officials. A lot of interviews have to be done. A lot of people have to be called in and find out whether their motivation was malicious. And in the course of those conversations, it just takes a lot of time. That's what I've learned, actually, just as kind of an observer to this process. I think a lot of these cases haven't been prosecuted over time because there's been ambiguity about the questions of pay to play, the questions of very bad behavior, which we do know occurred in the 2 examples that were mentioned earlier, like direct bribes. So what I hope is that this just ends the question, as Chair Tarnas was describing, that it just makes it totally clear there's no place for this in government. There's no place for it in Hawaii, and there would be adequate time to investigate and prosecute this kind of crime. You know, we have about $20 billion constantly flowing through the state of Hawaii between federal appropriations and state monies, and it's got to be confident in society. There's got to be that confidence in society that it's above board, because there's a lot of pressure out there from every direction, and hopefully this will just end that.
Mahalo, Governor. And I think that's all the questions we have from our reporters gathered with us today. So at this time, I'd like to invite our state legislators and any key stakeholders to come up to the podium for the formal bill signing and subsequent picture taking.
Okay, perfect. Let me put this down here. All right. Yeah. Thank you. Okay, so you've heard the description of this bill. This is Senate Bill 2494 relating to corruption, extending the statute of limitations to 9 years on questions about bribery, and I'm honored to sign it and to point out it was unanimously passed by every legislator, in the state of Hawaii. So we're all on board.
And this concludes the formal ceremony.
Thank you.
Mahalo.
Thank you again.
Absolutely. Sure. Yeah.